supposed to be where you find that unconditional love. I gave birth to 3 children who presented as male. So I raised them as boys. At age 16, my youngest son came to me and said, I have something to talk to you about. And I said, sure, go ahead. And he said, I'm gay. Now, my first instinct, because I saw in his face, I saw fear. And I saw he was looking at me as though he was somehow ashamed. And I didn't want him to feel that way. So the first thing I said to him was, thank you for coming to me and trusting me. And I said, I love you just the way you are, and I wouldn't change anything about you. And I gave him a hug. And he cried. And I said, why are you crying? And he said, because I don't know how Daddy's going to take it. And I said, you don't understand. Your father is your protector. And I said, he would kill for you. So Daddy will be fine. And I told my husband, and he took a deep breath, and he let it out, and he said, okay. And that was it. 2.5 years later, my oldest son came to me and said, I'm pretty sure I'm transgender. My first instinct was, well, how do you know? And he said, I was talking to a gender therapist because I was suffering from depression. I was questioning, my gender expression, and in talking with this therapist, I'm pretty sure I'm transgender. And I said, well, what about your girlfriend? And he said that being transgender has nothing to do with your sexuality. It has to do with who you are as a person. And the problem that I had with it was I deeply loved my son. And I felt like I lost him. Even when you're accepting of your child being transgender, there's a feeling of loss. You go through the mourning process. You sometimes feel angry about it. You sometimes resent God. Fear is a big dominating feeling because you hear about all the violence towards transgender individuals, especially transgender women of color. And I knew that my son had privilege, being an educated, intelligent black man. But once he transitioned to a woman, I knew that his advantages were now gone. So now I had to worry about her safety. I had to worry about her future and whether or not society was going to accept my child. Although I had already accepted her. I knew in my heart that it was going to be hard. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew in my heart I was going to do it. The gender therapist that we talked to recommended that I go to PFLAG. I reached out and I told them my story, and I think I cried for the whole hour, just saying what a hypocrite I felt like, because I raised my kids to think outside of the box and to be exceptional and be true to who they are. And then when they told me who they were, I had reservations. I didn't want to be on the journey with them. I wanted them to do their thing, but I didn't want it to change my life. But I realized that I had to let go of who I wanted them to be and who I wanted them to present as. And I had to change who I was. My kids came out, and then I had to come out. And when I realized that I had to transition too, it was very comforting to be in a room of other people who'd been on that same journey, who had children who were transgender. And I met professionals who were transgender who had successful careers. And I met married couples who were happily married. And I met students who were doing exceptionally well in school who had transitioned. And it gave me hope. And it showed me a different vision of what it means to be a human, to be, one of God's creations in all of its uniqueness. Because I looked around at everything around me and said, how boring would life be if everything was exactly the same?